You're listening to The View from Up Here, an equipping podcast by Viewpoint Leadership and Development. Our vision is to cultivate a change in the way the world views leadership and development, and our mission is to foster better leaders through a modern approach while developing individuals into their true selves. My name's Brad Walbridge, your host for our time together, and joining me in our conversations is our president and founder, Josh Trout, and our COO, Joel Archeri. Hey, want to welcome in our viewers to the View from Up Here podcast. Good to have you all. Joined this episode by Elvis and Andy, a part of our Viewpoint team. Guys, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, well, let's just get right into it. Elvis, just kind of share with us how you got connected to Viewpoint, and we're just hanging out here on the podcast, but how you got connected to Viewpoint as an organization, and kind of what's your role in Viewpoint.
I first met Josh through when I joined the ACHE, and we had a mentorship program.
Yeah.
And I happened to be he was the mentor that was actually picked for me.
Okay.
So
that's unfortunate for you that you had him as a mentor.
Well, actually, I was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
So it was a great mentor, a great choice, and our first conversation was about culture.
Yeah.
Right. Right off the bat, we talked about culture and how important that was to me and to him as well.
Okay. And specifically, what type of culture? Work culture, social culture.
It was primarily work culture.
Okay.
And then the social culture and how we can bring people together from different avenues and different walks of life.
Yeah.
And still find ourselves around the table and share. Right, and grow and learn from each other. So that was our first connecting point. And then I followed him, and he talked to me about Viewpoint, and I fell in love with the idea. And we shared some ideas about leadership and what I wanted to see in leaders and what leadership meant to me. And here we are.
That's great. So your role with Viewpoint, as far as like what you're going to be involved in as people connect with Viewpoint, what is that going to look like?
I'll actually be working as a consultant.
Okay.
And I think the first aspect of it is a wellness and fitness consultant.
Yeah.
And also trying to create a program to work with children.
Yeah.
Right. And start creating a course and teach leadership skills. Right.
Okay.
It was one of the things that I found that is lacking is our youth with understanding of leadership, right? We don't really teach them. We don't really show them the way. But at a certain point, we expect them to know what leadership is.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So I figured it would be a good way to start at a younger age.
Right.
And started developing those skills for them, even with the help of parents.
Right.
And so by the time they become 18, 19, going to college, leadership is not a foreign term.
Right.
Right? Like me learning how to speak German. Yeah. Right? So they'll actually be used to that, have gone through different principles and understanding what it is to be a leader.
Yeah. So what ages are you looking at? Like when you say younger, like walk me through what that looks like age-wise.
I would say middle school, starting with middle school.
Okay.
Right? Just the basic principles of leadership, right?
Okay.
Honesty, integrity, right? Being humble.
Yeah.
Right? Things like that is what we want to start developing with those kids and see what that looks like for them, right? In the eye of that kid. And then trying to lead, from that point on, lead them into what it can become and how they can become a great leader from that point on.
Yeah.
And still developing those skills through high school, college, and by the time they become leaders in the workforce, they're very familiar with what it looks like, and they can actually lead. If they're managers or leaders, they can actually lead.
Right.
Not be strangers to what leadership is.
Yeah. Clearly you're passionate about it. I'm curious where that passion comes from for you. Why is that such a big deal for you?
I think one, growing up from my parents, I had two strong parents who had two different ways of leading. My dad was very quiet and methodical. My mom was the Army Ranger, right, so to speak. So Dad would think and process things and will give you certain scenarios to make you think.
Yeah.
Mom will be the yeller, all right? So I was able to kind of like pay attention to each of them,
Yeah.
right? And then when I moved to the U.S., it was a complete new world for me, all right? And I had a choice. Either I make it or I don't,
Right.
all right? And the choice was made by my parents pretty easy. You have to make it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't come back home, right? So now I had to figure things out. And that process allowed me to find out myself what I was made of, so to speak, right? Do I have the strength to do this? Am I mentally tough to be in this new country, learn the language, and still find my way around, right?
Yeah.
And going through that process allowed me to grow.
Yeah.
And I saw the skills, the leadership skills, and I want to just give that back, all right? I see too many kids who think that they can't go because they don't have certain resources,
Yeah.
right? When in fact, the resources are there, they're just not looking for it,
Yeah.
right? Or not being encouraged to go look for it.
So there's some guided discovery in there.
Yes.
Where people are going to, you're thinking of guiding these young men and women
Absolutely.
towards understanding these principles so that as they're expected to carry that out and they're older, a lot of the building blocks are in place,
Right.
and then they gel at the right time with the right leadership. of
Exactly.
course. Yeah.
And that's what it is.
And I think the other thing that's really important, like I'm thinking of my 12-year-old, I want him to understand not only what leadership is, but that there are toxic forms of that, that there are unhealthy forms of that, and that there are healthy forms of that, and how to be able to see the differences in those
Right.
over his lifetime. So that he can understand that for himself, and then understand how to correspond with those leading him, because they're going to fall in those categories.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it is not the leaders we want.
No, it is not. I'll give you an example of when I talk to my son about video games.
Yeah.
All right. There's always this process of if you buy him a brand new game, they'll get to the first level, he'll lose, get frustrated, and then keeps going and figures it out.
Yeah.
So I use that moment to teach leadership, right? You went through the first process and you lost, you failed, but you didn't quit, right? You got mad a little bit, went and figured it out, passed the first level, and then there's another level a little harder, and you have to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
In that process, you're learning about yourself. You have to be patient.
Yeah.
You have to learn. You can't quit, right?
Right.
You have to figure out a way. But I don't necessarily give him the answers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I guide him to try to figure it and think for himself so he can actually go and figure it out. And so I'll try to use these examples and then tie that to this is how you become a leader. This is how in the future you can help and you can lead,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's pretty interesting. And my dad used to do the same thing with me, all right, in teaching me and my brothers about teamwork, all right, and how to work together as a team. So same thing I'm just trying to pass around.
Yeah, I love that. I love the passion in the people, and Andy, we'll talk to you in just a second, because I know you're passionate too.
No, this is great.
I love the passion that we are being able to assemble
Right.
as a part of this team for those that are viewing, those that partake in what Viewpoint is doing. Just the passion that's behind what we're doing, and not it being, hey, here's this package.
Right.
Go utilize this package. No, we have passionate people that deeply care about the future of leadership.
Right.
And I think that's what's most important for our folks to understand. Andy, kind of walk us through how you got connected into Viewpoint. That's an interesting story as well.
It really is. My life is medical world.
Yeah.
And I met Josh. So I have a weekly podcast, We Think We Talk. And, it's in regards to healthcare leaders, and, really started out because of COVID in that year. And we as leaders in the community, healthcare, and different businesses, it really turned into more than just healthcare.
Sure.
It kind of evolved into its own podcast.
Like so many things do,
It
right?
really did. And I think it was therapeutic for me, because all of a sudden I had a voice again to be with people, reach to people.
Yeah.
And, it started from nothing. Well, throughout this, I met Josh. There was a meet and greet. basically a coffee in the morning type
Yeah.
thing. And a mutual friend of ours basically introduced each other to, and kind of said, hey, you guys will probably get along. You think similar. So Josh and I, we started chatting and talking there that day, and me, I'm quick to say, hey, would you like to be on the podcast?
There you go.
And because I hear what he was saying to me,
Right.
I'm like, stop,
Yeah.
come to this unscripted podcast, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's dissect what we're all thinking down a little bit. So I asked Josh if he'd be on, and of course, as nice of a guy as he is, he agreed, and I think we literally did it that week. I think it was maybe on a Monday, and I record on Thursdays usually.
Yeah.
He was there, and the conversation we had really went deep. And, I started noticing a very similar sort of a story. But with Josh, he opened up right away. And the podcast, after it was over and edited, I was listening to it, and I said, a lot of people need to hear this.
Yeah.
This is not just for this industry.
Yeah.
This is for people. Honestly, my head at that moment, any professional or someone trying to grow within themselves can look and listen to him and realize that, we all face troubles.
Yeah.
We all have brick walls in front of us.
Yeah.
And not little. I mean, multiple layers.
Yeah.
And I really, another thing that grabbed me, and it grabbed a lot of listeners too with him, is he had what I love is the buck stops here mentality.
Yeah.
I'm not looking back and saying this is because of my mom, my dad, how I grew up. I'm taking full responsibility for my life now.
Yeah.
I'm looking back, we can dissect how I got here, but how do I go forward?
Yeah.
What do I do to get to the next step? And so several podcasts later, of course, he became just a great guest. And then Joel got to come into the mix. And Joel, of course, was great
That's right.
with the podcast. But I think what we discovered in this podcast, and I discovered about Josh and Joel, is that really every day we're talking, and for some reason we don't do this as professionals, maybe as we should.
Yeah.
We may have a round table, say, with our staff in the morning, but it's not really broke down. And what are you dealing with today? What obstacles have you faced? And I believe if we could share that with each other, it may help one of us go around that pothole.
Yeah.
We totally avoid having to go through what a struggle that one of us had previously went through.
Yeah.
And I just realized at that point, I said, this is incredible. And then Josh had told me about Viewpoint.
Yeah.
And his dream and vision for it.
Yeah.
And, and asked me, hey, what's your input? What's your thoughts? And I said, I would just love to be a part of something like that because, at a round table like we're doing now, able to talk about, what are our successes? What are our failures? How do we become better people?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, ultimately, at the end of our run, people can look back and go, hey, they brought more than just what they did for a living, what their title was. Because first thing somebody asks you is, hey, what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is going to leave no doubt to who we are.
Right.
That's big.
Yeah. It is.
Because, you take one person and motivate them and say, what, they went through a lot. And I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to try it again, because we were taught, if you continue to do the same thing over and over, that's insanity. It's not true. It's like you were saying about the video game. It's you have to continue to practice life.
Right.
And I think Viewpoint as a whole will bring that to people of all different genres, whether it's middle schoolers, whether it's college campuses, whether it's professional business organizations, and let them see another view.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're looking at it from one direction. This is a little higher elevation of a view.
Yeah.
And let's break it down and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And usually with a think tank, if you will, you put a problem out and you have more than one person looking at it, the problem gets solved.
You're going to get some solutions.
You're
Maybe
gonna
even
get
a
solutions.
variety of it.
Absolutely.
Why do you think and I just love the name of the podcast. We think we talk.
Yes.
Why do you think people are so apprehensive or struggle so much to really, because it sounds so simple.
Yes.
As you put it, and the way that Josh has talked about it, it sounds so simple. Why is it so hard?
Honestly, I had to think about that a long time. This was about a year ago. Because that podcast has been going about a year and a half. And I thought about it after a few episodes, and really people were just all of a sudden opening up, like really talking. Like after about 5 minutes of the shock of seeing the beautiful studio, like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden you'd see this honesty come. And I realized what it was is, for some reason, maybe culturally, I don't know, but especially as men.
Yeah.
We were taught that if we share too much or open up, we're not tough. Maybe not as manly.
Right.
And that we're supposed to hide and keep everything in.
Right.
And honestly, I just decided that was stupid. That really was
Couldn't
just
agree more.
Because I really do think that you can hold it in, but bad things come from that.
Right.
And the world may not see what happens, but your own frustrations.
Yeah.
And you fail more.
Yeah.
When you don't share.
Right.
And I just decided, who better else to open up and speak to than a group of people that are similar, that have traveled different paths.
Yeah.
But also are on the same journey I am.
Yeah.
And honestly, genuinely have my best interest at heart, just because that's their heart.
Yeah.
And I said, we need to find a way to open up. So that's what we think We Talk end up being. It's just a conversation of why. Somebody would say, I made this move for this job. Why?
Yeah.
I didn't want to know what they were going to be doing, what led them to that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then really from that, so much good content came. And anybody can really plug in and find an episode and find some correlation to their life within that episode. And hopefully it gives strength and lets you know that it's okay not to be okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk about it. But I think with Viewpoint, more so than We Think We Talk, we'll give a platform for it to be okay not to be okay.
Right.
But yet you have this excellent group that will help you find the answer. And like you said, many answers.
Yeah.
And one may be softer, one may be tougher, and you can kind of pick the way you want to go.
Yeah.
Because there's no wrong answer guiding somebody's life.
No.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key elements here with Viewpoints for me is the fact that people actually get to connect, right?
Right.
In many cases with leadership, you tend to get a course, somebody who comes in and speaks for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then see you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think with Viewpoint, it's let's connect. I want to create a connection.
Right.
Right. I want you to know that I've failed before.
Yes.
Right. I had struggled. You're going through the same process, and maybe my experiences can help you figure things out. Right.
Yep.
This is the path that I took. This is the path that Josh took. Somebody else took. Right. And got success out of it. Can we plug this into your life? To where you are, your struggles,
right,
and make you become better.
Yep.
Right? It's a one-on-one, right? I'm not about the masses. I want to be able to connect with one person and change that person.
Yeah.
Right? For the better. Give them something positive. When they leave Viewpoint, it's like, wow, they touched me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to go back. I want to learn more, just for myself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Viewpoint is bringing, that we don't necessarily have with the other leadership companies or courses.
Well, it's like we talked about just a moment ago. We really did. It's for so long, our idols or people that we've looked up to have really not been within touch.
Right.
I love Bo Jackson, inspiring books. I mean, everything. But I can't pick up and call him.
Right.
I can't just click and say, what would Bo do?
Right.
But literally, this is a way that there is people that we have had successes and failures in many ways, but we're real.
Right.
We're very real, and we're very approachable.
Right.
And, the world really doesn't offer that with the 1%. We idolize those people, but those people don't come to us and say, what can I do to help you?
Right. Right.
And this is something where literally you have people that have had, successes and failures, and you can come to and get an honest answer. And that's the key point. An honest answer, that's almost unheard of. People will tell you what they, and I think unfortunately in our culture too, especially in leadership, if you're higher in leadership, you get a lot of people telling you what you want to hear.
Right.
I know with Josh, I don't care where you're at in your company or your status.
Yeah.
You're going to get the truth.
Yeah.
That's right.
And sometimes at first that hurts. That's a blowback. Like, oh, wow.
Sure.
But then you'll appreciate that in the long run because you need to know the truth. You need to know where where you've been before you know where you're going.
Yeah.
And you think you're doing it right, but you have nobody telling you you're not.
Right.
And I think there's something different about, especially in today's culture, to be able to hear and absorb honesty from someone, but have the piggyback with that of the person's vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right.
If someone's honest with me, but they're willing to let the curtain down and tell me where they have struggled and where they have failed,
Yes.
I can take the honesty from that person. Elvis, you tell me a struggle that you've had, but then you're starting to speak in to something about me. You look like a fit guy,
That's
I've,
right.
I've struggled with my health. If you speak into me, but you talk about the origination of maybe you've struggled with your health in these ways, even though I'm not seeing that today, you talk about where that's come from,
Right.
and then you speak into me as someone who cares relationally about my success and my future. And I think viewpoint, that's one of the key things that defines it organizationally from anybody else. And maybe there's some others out there, but I'm just saying it is rare for it to be about the relationship, not just about, you're a number.
Right.
Yeah, tell us what you need. We'll give you a couple of things, or look on the website, download a couple of things, pay this, pay that. No, this is a relationship, and that's what we're wanting to enter in with people, is the relationship to be able to help you, but to also see that growth that gets us energized and excited.
Well, I think you get the picture without a filter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You get the real us.
Yeah.
I can write a memoir or a
Yeah.
book, but it's only limited to so many pages.
Right.
So therefore, I'm just going to have the highlight point. So you're going to be like, oh, this was incredible. This life was great all the way through.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get the 30 years of struggle before the 5 years of excellence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is without the filter.
Yeah.
This is just an honest to goodness conversation, trials and tribulations of real life.
Yeah.
And I think another key point that we touched earlier, even when I talked to Josh, was finding yourself, all right? Knowing who you are before any endeavor, all right? You have to know who you are. At least for me, it was a big thing. So understand who I was as a person, what triggered me, what put me at peace, what allowed me to work harder, what discouraged me, right? And then learn to deal with all of these things prior to making a move forward, all right? Until I understand that, even if you look at the fitness industry, all right, I will have clients coming in, hey, I want to lose weight, I have this issue, I have that issue, great. Why do you want to do it? Well, the doctor said to, okay, why do you want to do it? All right? I want to make sure that there's a reason, a valid reason,
Right.
that you can connect with that will lead you to put further effort in what it is that you want to do so that it's important. You see the value in that.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't see the value,
Yeah.
it won't make sense.
Right. Because you can't care about it more than they do.
Exactly. Right.
Just if I'm a leader that wants to grow, and I come to you, or I come to you, Andy, or I come to Josh or to Joel or anybody else on our team, and I say I want to grow, and here are the ways that I want to grow. I can't drop that in your lap and say you need to deliver that back to me on a silver platter. No. I've initiated the process, but the biggest workload is on me as the one that wants to grow.
You have to own it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Accountability, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And each one of us has to do the same thing.
Yep.
As we're helping other people, we have to also be first in line to say, we're doing that too.
And believe me, accountability is still hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still, wake up in the morning, and the more we grow,
Yeah.
the harder it gets.
Yeah.
Sure.
It really does.
And I'm glad you brought up that word, Andy. Is accountability has over the years gotten confused with, if I'm accountable to someone, right? If I'm accountable to you, Elvis, there's somehow been this confusion that because I'm accountable to you, I let you know the things that I need to let you know when you come to me.
Right.
You come to me, you initiate the conversation, and I'll be accountable to you. But I'm the consumer. You gotta come to me, and then I'll give it to you. Accountability, whoever I'm accountable to, it's my job to initiate and to have the discipline to pursue that in the relationship. So I think for our viewers, for our listeners, for them to understand that moving forward in leadership, taking those steps at a time, it is the intentionality that they have to have. It is the accountability that they have to pursue, and that they have a lot of people ready to help them,
Right.
and to connect with them and to point them in the right direction. But they have to want it more than anybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you'd add, Elvis?
Leadership is, and I think that when people think about leadership, we only think of big firm, major corporations, right?
Yeah.
Hospitals, banks, and things like that. One of the things for me is expanding what leadership is to being a husband, being a dad.
Yeah.
Right? We tend to forget that we're leaders in that way as well.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll go to work, be leaders at work, and then when we come home, it's like, oh, I'm dad or I'm just a husband, but I'm no longer a leader. Right?
Yeah.
So those values and things tend to change.
Right.
Right? I allow pretty much anything here at home because I don't want to deal with the stress, and I'll go back and deal with work. So accountability comes to that, right? Those values that we have. I think it's very important to actually bring those back to the forefront and that's what you get with Viewpoints. When we talk to our clients, it's let's set the values, right? Understand what leadership is, right? And how we get there. And it starts, again, with self.
Yeah.
Right? Start with self, and then trying to flow it out to everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited about this journey.
Yeah.
It's again, I'm passionate about it. It's trying to touch at least one life at a time.
Yeah.
Right. I think everybody else that will come in will see that there's not only passion but realness.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
You get the truth. Nothing is sugarcoated. Right.
No.
It's what I call the ugly truth. Right. And that's what it is. But the end goal is to make sure that we, as a team, get there.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you take a step, we take a step.
Right.
Let's make sure that we get to that.
Yeah.
finish line.
We're a part of the team.
That's right.
With those that want to grow.
Yeah.
We're a part. Andy, what else would you add?
I'm just going to agree with Elvis, because I think he talked on, being at work accountable, then being at home accountable. I think the ultimate goal here is to be that same person both places.
Right. Yeah.
And when you can reach that, it's really difficult to get there too, because we talk about unwinding and everything, letting it go, leave work at work, all of these things. But in reality, we can't.
Right.
We can't do that. And I think this is a way that we can individually, one-on-one, and as a team, learn coping mechanisms, the ability to be that same person, thoughtful insight. And it's like Elvis was saying, I couldn't put it better, to be honest. As you take a step, we're taking a step. But what you don't see is that we've already kind of ran up the path a little bit for you.
Yeah.
And we looked
And then we came back.
And we came back. So we know if you're getting ready to take a step, we might can warn you that there may be a rock.
Right.
You might want to look out for it. Now it's up to you to look for the rock.
Exactly.
That's right.
But
That's right.
yeah.
Like my dad would said, I've made the mistakes for you already.
Right.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Right? I've
Yeah.
made some mistakes for you already. So I'm going to let you know not to go there. Please don't go. But if you do, you're on your own.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That's right.
So
And we have to be on our own at one point, and that's
Sure.
where the accountability part.
Sure.
Exactly.
But to know that there are people that are for you,
Yes.
that are on that journey with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love talking to you guys. Appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Appreciate our viewers. We look forward to joining you next time.